Welcome to the High-Achieving Parents Podcast. I am your host, Severine Nassens, and I invite you to join us as we explore the reality and family experiences of high-achieving parents around the globe. Learn from like-minded parents who do believe balance is possible, but not a one-size-fits-all proposition. Stay tuned for conversations about how my guests juggle successful careers in parenthood to make it all work in their own way. Will we find a common thread throughout these interviews? Let's find out. Welcome to another episode of the High Achieving Parents Podcast. Today, I am blessed with the presence of my dear friend and study companion, Kylie Ryan. We went through an entire course together. We spent numerous months sharing that space as students, and I'm also learning a lot from her. She is an amazing performance coach, an NLP coach trainer. Apart from that, she's an amazing singer. She's creative. She's the mom to two beautiful kids. They're 8 and 6, Ruby and Oliver. And it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you, Kylie, to this space. All the way from Australia.
Oh.
So this is already, it's going around the world. I am so excited about it. So welcome on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me, Severine. It's so, it's so lovely to be invited. It's always a joy to be invited onto podcasts and to have a conversation. And it's just, it's a pleasure. So I'm excited to meet your audience and maybe share some stories that might be useful or something that might help.
Oh, well, I think you've got plenty to share because you have been in business for a long time and you're combining that with marriage, children. So there's plenty of stories to share. And also as a coach, I truly admire all the work you do in training other coaches and creating that community of coaches that supports us as coaches, which I'm part of your community as well. So it's really amazing to see how you've developed and how you've grown. I mean, your curriculum is impressive, all the things that you've learned so far. And one of the things I want you to share with us is about your Jedi mind skills further down the road. But let's get going on the topic, bringing parenting and business, high achieving entrepreneurship into combination. Please do share with us on a professional level what has been for you as a mom and a professional your highest achievement so far.
My highest achievement. It's hard to it's hard to kind of quantify the highest the highest achievement or the best achievement, but I think being able to, I think just being able to keep a business going while you have young kids is a pretty bloody amazing achievement. And there were days where, when my children were younger, when I would say, just getting out of bed and keeping my children alive and maybe having a shower, that's an achievement. That's a success for today. Let's just chalk that up and celebrate that.
I like the keeping the kids alive part.
Keeping the kids alive. Like if we're all alive at the end of the day and relatively happy, I think that's an achievement in itself. But if I kind of think of more kind of standard measures of success, I guess I've been able to build and keep and grow my coaching business while my kids have been little. And so developing over COVID, there was actually, I made quite a significant shift. Like a lot of people were forced to make significant shifts. And so we've all made big shifts, right? So my little version of that was shifting from an events-based, kind of live events-based business to an online training, like a global online training academy. And so so I guess the achievements around that is, being able to then serve coaches all around the world and and help them to raising the standard of coaching. And so over the period of time, developing my skills, creating events and things, it's like there's always been those times where I'll be running a training or having to go to a conference and having, choosing to spend time away from my kids in order to have those intensive moments where I'm either learning or teaching. And I'm just really, really lucky to have the support of my husband, who is a really hands-on dad and, just such a great father. So I feel like my kids are in good hands when I go to do those things. So yeah, I guess it's like I couldn't do what I do without the support of my partner right now. So
yeah, that's something that comes back, is having a support system, whether it's your partner, your parents, or a team, building a team around you to help you juggle both the business and the children. Because delegating, us coaches, it's hard for us to delegate the coaching as such, because that's what we do.
That's our thing.
And it does involve a lot of things, but organizing events or setting up anything digital wise, because there's a lot of technology going on, and it is a learning curve, as you say. For me as well, I've been learning new technologies and juggling all that. Having to step away from the children, or choosing, as you say, right? Choosing to step out and to leave them with their dad. Bless their dad, because we know they're here. As you say, they're in good hands. How has that affected them? How has that affected your family? Or has it really affected, or has it been beneficial for your family? Because in some occasions it can be.
Yeah, it can be a bit of both. Well, it's interesting. I tend to, after years and years of kind of balancing opposites and looking at things through the kind of through the lens of kind of collapsing opposites and yin yang, and kind of seeing, there's benefits and drawbacks for everything. So, so I can see that there are, there's benefits, taking that time away. And there was times where, when my littlest one was maybe 2 or 3, and they're like not so keen on me going away, or, when my eldest was little and my youngest was still a baby, and I was traveling, bringing him with me on planes, and or the first few times leaving them alone and still breastfeeding. And I remember times where I was, breast pumping in the toilets in airports to get my milk, like, where is a PowerPoint? I need to put in my breast pump and extract my milk.
Whatever it takes,
right? And I remember, like, those times were quite tricky and challenging. And there is that kind of tension when you get on a plane and you have a young child that you're leaving in someone else's care. There's always that, like, the tug of the heartstrings. And so I guess the way that I was able to rationalize it, or, make it okay, was recognizing that when I'm away from my children, they have the chance to bond with that carer, whether it's their father or their grandparents, in a really deep and profound way. Like, when I'm in the room, I'm always, like, the way that our family works and the way that our, attachment bond works with our kids. When I'm in the room, then I'm the primary parent, and that, like, I'm the one that they would go to, and I'm the one that they would lean on for emotional support. But when I'm not there, they have the chance to bond in that way with a whole bunch of other people, with their dad, with their grandparents, with their aunties and uncles. And so I kind of thought about it as, I'm building them the chance to feel like they have a whole network that is supporting them, and it's not just me. And I want them to feel like they have an entire support structure, an entire family support structure. So I grew up not having that kind of profound family support structure. Like my dad worked a lot, and my mum was our primary carer, but we didn't have other family friends or other people that we ever kind of spent time with. And so, yeah, I remember when I got on a plane to go to a conference, maybe my youngest was 3 at the time, and I remember thinking, and it was a kind of weird, morbid type of of relief, going, oh, you know what? If I died, I know that they would be okay. I know it's kind of morbid, but I know that they would be emotionally cared for, that they have strong connections with their grandparents, with their dad, with other aunties and uncles and other people in our family. I know they would be okay. And so I think that's a key part of it. And I think it's hard for me it was really hard for me when I was leaving, but it was also good for me to have that time to just step out of the role of mother, and to step into, I get to be an entrepreneur, I get to be a teacher, I get to have some time for myself in a hotel room, and read a magazine before going to sleep, and get room service and sleep in the next day. Like having those moments. I know different people need different things, and that was really critical for my sanity, to be able to then come back and be fully present as much as I possibly could, to be that parent that I want to be. I needed that time away. I needed that mental stimulation. I needed to know that I was continuing to grow my business and, serve my mission in the way that I could at the time, So I think there was,
and I can totally,
benefit.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I totally relate to that, because we're as high achievers, we're constantly looking for personal growth. We're constantly looking to how can we improve what we do, how we serve, and that can only be done through growth. And for me as well, stepping away from my daughter, letting her go. I remember when I sent her off to Belgium the first time, she was 9. And I put her on a plane to fly all the way from Mexico to Belgium. That's a 12-hour flight, right? And I was like, oh dear Lord, what have I done? I've just shipped my daughter to, obviously she was going to stay with my mom. She was in the best hands possible.
Yeah.
But still she's going to be without me for more than a month, right? Yeah. But then I settled into that, and I said, okay, perfect. I have 1 month to myself as an adult. Yeah. And as you say, right, you can do things that you let go of as a mother, especially the moms. I don't know the dads, if some dads do, it depends on the family. But especially as moms, we set aside our personal needs or our personal wants
so much,
and we take the kids come first.
So much,
right? So it's good to know that I'm not the only one, and if anybody's listening, you're not the only one. We all like to step out and do grown-up things and work on ourselves and be with ourselves. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for bringing that up.
100%.
You spoke about it's like switching archetypes, right? You go from being a mom to an entrepreneur to a wife, and then you go back and forth. And I know you work with the archetypes. How do you make that switch?
That's a great question. I actually think the core of mother guilt, when I look at it when I kind of analyze it structurally, when I think the core of mother guilt is an inability to switch archetypes. It's like an inability to switch gears. So like I'm in my work role, I'm in my work context, but if I'm still running my thinking through the archetype of the mother, then I'm going to be thinking, oh, where are my kids? And like, what are they doing right now? And what, like, feeling bad that I'm not there with them, and feeling guilty and like, oh, I should be with them, that kind of thing. And then, when I'm with my kids, then because I haven't been fully present at work and doing my work, then when I'm with my kids, then I'm distracted and going, oh my God, I forgot to reply to that email, or oh, I didn't do that thing. And so then you're on your phone and distracted when you're with your kids. And I'm not I'm not perfect with this by any stretch of the imagination, but I, I try to be quite strict with myself about when I'm in this room and I'm working and the door is shut. I'm in my work mode. I'm either teaching or facilitating or coaching or whatever that is, or entrepreneur. And then when I walk out that door, out of my office, and I leave all my...
You switch hats.
I switch hats. And so for me, it's like, what is that trigger moment? And I like it to be physical, like a physical ritual or a physical action or behavior that you do. So when I walk through that door, I've kind of consciously set up this decision that when I walk through that door, then I'm mum and I'm with my kids, and that's my job. Is when I'm with my kids, then I'm being mum, and they're my they're my priority. And then when I come through this door on the other side, they know that when the door is shut, I'm working, and unless it's an emergency, they're not to bother me. Unless, so sometimes my daughter's slipped a note under the door, which is really sweet. And so they they know that I'm here if there is an emergency, but most of the time their dad is here with us as well. And so he's going to take care of it. And so I developed that, and kind of worked through that version of okay, when I'm in here, I'm playing this role and this is how I operate. And when I come over here, I'm playing this role and this is how I operate. And just getting really clear about what's that moment. Maybe it's shutting the car door. Maybe it's moving from one room to another. Maybe it's when people were working in offices, I think in some ways it was simpler because there was such a strong demarcation between this is my work and this is my home. And I leave my work at work and I come home and I'm at home when I'm at home. But with the fusion of digital lives now means that we're contactable all the time, and I could send a message to my client at 4 a.m. because they live in another time zone and it's the middle of the day for them. And so there's this sense of always being on. And so I think it needs to be a conscious decision around, this is my boundary, this is how I'm playing in this moment. And if I'm in guilt or resentment or distracted, chances are I'm muddying up the kind of roles that I'm trying to play.
Yeah. I think it's such a great idea to make it a physical shift. Because I think with the pandemic throughout the world, we've all gone into, okay, everybody's working from home now. I still can't really go out and teach, physically be in a space with people yet.
Yeah.
So everything's online. So not having that difference, like you said, slamming the door, closing the door, or what I sometimes do is I go for a walk. I leave the house and then I come back, to leave everything aside, because we miss that physical transition from work to home. And also the kids are, especially here in Mexico, the children are still home from school. So there's no school, there's no office, everything's in the very same place. It's important to make that difference and to be able to switch hats and be present.
Yeah.
And being present is something that comes back in every talk I have.
Yeah.
Is what we've learned as parents is to be present with our children, even if that's a short period of time. But when you're with them, shut off the phone.
Yeah.
Or even leave the phone
in a
elsewhere
different room.
In the house.
Yeah.
So you can actually be present with them.
Yeah.
It's key. It's really key to be able to switch those hats. And I think working with the archetypes, for me, learning about the archetypes has been key to understand, because it was very chaotic to me in the beginning. I'm doing so many things at the same time, and being able to, okay, now I'm mom, now I'm coach, now I'm friend, now I'm wife. So it kind of, and we switch hats constantly.
Yeah.
But understanding where I'm at, what I'm doing, it's like shifting gears, like you said. So thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. As far as parenting for you and your husband, and combined with the business, what has been the hardest part for you to move through, or the hardest lesson that parenting has brought for you?
Ooh, the hardest lesson. I think the trickiest lesson, and also probably the most rewarding and useful lesson, is in following my own and trusting my own intuition around parenting, because there's so many people with opinions when you have a child, right? Your mother, your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your extended family, aunties and uncles, and all of the, and then there's all the parenting experts and books and all of the things that exist. And, as we know, such radical, divergent views and polarizing views, from like, leave them to cry themselves to sleep, to, wear them all the time and have great attachment. And, that kind of opposite view was definitely something that became, that was kind of a challenge in our household initially, that, my husband kind of struggles to go to sleep. He's got quite a lot of kind of insomniac, like active mind at night. And so for him, being disturbed in his sleep would sometimes mean that he wouldn't get back to sleep at all that night. And, because he just takes so long to go to sleep, whereas I could get up, go and look after the baby, and then come back and be so exhausted, I would just go straight back to sleep. And so when my daughter was born, I did that, and I would get up like every parent, does for a period of time, get up the multiple times. And, sometimes I would be so tired, I would because I wanted to be more of that attachment parent with my firstborn. And I was kind of listening to the advice of, oh no, you need to get up, and oh no, you need to like teach them how to sleep in their own bed. And my mom was, I remember one time my mom kind of came over and she's like, no, you need to teach her to sleep in her bed, and you just need to let her cry. And she stood with me on the other side of the door, and I was in tears, and my mom was like trying to hold me back from going in to get my daughter when she was crying in her bed. And I kind of submitted to it for about 20 minutes. And then I was like, enough, Mom, I can't do this. This is not how I want to parent. And that I'm just going to keep getting up until she figures it out. And so I went in and calmed my baby, and I was like, never again will I do that. And I know different parents choose different things, and I was blessed to be able to be running my own business, and there's no judgment, whatever way you choose to parent is, that's your thing. But for me, that wasn't the method for me. And so my husband has always been kind of more towards, hey, teach them to sleep in their bed. And I just wanted them right there with me, on top of me. And so the first year and a half, 2 years with Ruby, I would get up every night and kind of pat her to sleep if she kind of cried. And sometimes I would crawl into her cot and cuddle into her cot
to hold
her so that I wouldn't disturb him. And then when Ollie was born, I remember that a moment in the hospital where the nurse came in, and I had him tucked in under my arm, from kind of sleepy from breastfeeding. And the nurse said to me, oh, you're going to put him back in the cot now? And I said, oh, no, we're just he's just having a little cuddle after the milk. And she said, you're not going to put him in, are you? And I went, no, I'm not going to put him in the cot.
Nuh-uh.
And so she went,
not this one.
And so she went, okay. And she said, let's just make it safe for you then. And so she kind of wedged a pillow through the side of the bed and that kind of thing. And so that was the shift then of me going, you know what, I can't do this again, and I need to sleep. I need to go sleep with my baby. And so I slept in our bed, and with Ollie on my outside arm and Chen on the other side. And so the baby wouldn't disturb him. And then I had an extra mattress and all these bolsters and kind of safety railings and things on the outside of my bed so he wouldn't fall off. But I basically slept with him on my arm for the first good couple of years of his life.
Wow.
And Yeah, and I think it was like that piece of going, and you know, my husband was like, "Come on, like get him back into his own bed. You just need to get up and put him in his own bed." And I was like, "No, I actually just need him here with me." And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm sorry, but this is what this is what we need to do. And
I think it's like you said, it's finding the things that work for you. And parenting advice, there's plenty,
yeah,
and I've tried different things
methods.
with my daughter, and it's also depends on the
It
child.
depends on the child.
Every child is different.
Yeah,
All children are different. All parents were different. So different people, different solutions, right? So
yeah,
I'm happy that it worked out for you. I mean, that's the
yeah.
most important thing is that it works out for you and the family. I guess your husband got some more sleep
He's
as
eventually
well.
getting a bit more. He's eventually got a bit more sleep, but and it's that. Then I really kind of miss those moments of like cuddling in with my daughter, and so I make a big point of cuddling in with her, and you know, jumping in her bed and giving her a big cuddle every now and then, and like you said, having those kind of intense, potent moments of connection, and every night that I'm home with them at bedtime, I sing them both their own little bedtime song, and so that's our kind of deep moment of connection. So no matter what's happened in the day, we always connect over a song at night and have a little cuddle, and you know, that's
Your special moments.
yeah, it's those little special moments. I think that makes a big difference.
So how do you and Chen keep your sanity in all of this?
How do we keep our sanity? Well, it's interesting because we both run our own businesses. So, I run my coaching and training business, and he runs a design agency. And so, he used to be in an office in the city, and now he's working from home as well. And so we met because we're both musicians. He's a producer and instrumentalist and singer, and I'm, you know, singer and songwriter. And so we had a lot of kind of music in our connection in our early, you know, days before kids. And so
Uh-huh.
that connection around music has been a big thread.
Lifesaver.
Yeah, a big lifesaver and thread. And there was a period of time, you know, in the intensity of our kids being little, that for both of us, music kind of like fell by the wayside and went on the back burner, so to speak. And it's
Yeah.
been really nice in the last couple of years. Chen started playing guitar again, and he plays guitar most nights while we're waiting for the kids to kind of go to sleep. And I've started in the last 6 months, I've started singing again. And so just starting to kind of do those little things that fill us up. And he
Mm-hmm.
said to me the other day, he said, maybe we should just record a song, just a cover song, to just like get into the rhythm of doing it again, and like being together again. With our music, and so that's a key part of, you know, going out to a gig every now and then, watching another band, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then just like cuddling and watching, you know, whatever TV show, you know, like I don't know, whatever is on Netflix that seems good. We'll like pick one thing, and a couple of nights a week we'll watch an episode and work through
Yeah.
a series, and that's a really nice, just cuddle on the couch, not
Mm-hmm.
working, relax, hang out together, and I think that's
Let it all go and go into couple mode
go into
is very important as
yeah,
well.
go into couple mode. I mean, everyone's kind of, people talk about date nights and what have you, and we've never been great at doing romantic date nights because we're not typically kind of go out to restaurant type of people.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, but we take the kids out once a week now to get, you know, burgers or Japanese at our local place, and for them to have a play, and yeah, and every now and then going on a little weekend away. Or a couple of years ago, we went on a second honeymoon trip, just Chen and I, over to New Zealand, and had bought like a not like rented a camper van, was traveling around mountains and climbing up glaciers together and things like that, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that was really necessary for our relationship at that
Mm.
time. You know, we'd gotten into um, the mundane of the relationship, and kind of, it's
Yeah.
so easy to get into that point where you kind of almost start to drift apart because you're doing different things, and I was like, we need to have some time together, just us as a couple. And
To rekindle
yeah,
and bring that connection back.
to
And I
bring that
think
connection
what you
back.
do through music, and even if it's just chilling out on the
Just
couch,
hanging out.
cuddling, but being in physical contact
Yeah.
is also, that is something that I notice with my husband, is that we're constantly, if we're together, touching,
Yeah.
whether it's just
Yeah.
some kind
Like
of
a
touch, and
pat
it's
on
just that.
a butt
Yes,
squeeze, or like a little cuddle or a kiss when you
but
go past.
that physical connection is so important. There's a saying, right? You need about 7 hugs a day
Yeah.
to up your endorphins, and I
Oh,
think it's great that you make that time. It is something. It's a conscious choice
yeah.
to make that time with the children, to make that time with your partner, the same like we make the conscious choice to work 6, 8, 10, 12, 16 hours a day. It's a conscious choice
Yeah.
that we make, and not allowing that routine rut to get a hold of you
Yeah.
is absolutely key.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's like
I love it.
knowing when to I think it's noticing the signs as well of like when you need to invest in the relationship,
Yeah.
and not letting it slide. Because those moments when you get resentful, or you get irritated, or you're starting to get frustrated with your partner, and you're like, so annoying how they do blah blah, or oh, I'm so frustrated about that. It's usually because there's just a lack of time, like you haven't had time together doing fun
The
things,
quality.
and the quality time. And so then those like little niggly things get blown out of proportion, and they can just become the wedge that it can become the wedge that drives you apart if you let it. But if you catch it and go, oh, I'm getting a bit resentful or a bit frustrated here, either there's something I need to communicate, or we just need to have some time together doing more fun things, and making the shift to turn that around.
Yeah, bringing things into your life that spark your joy,
Totally.
and bring some fun in there, makes a huge difference.
Huge difference. Oh,
Huge difference. Do the kids play any music at all?
but actually both of them are quite musical. He makes a cushion drum set, and with chopsticks he's been playing the drums, listening to. So Chen's been, my husband's been showing them like old rock songs, and kind of training their musical ear. And so he's been playing cushion drums to AC/DC and and
Oh,
Queen and
that's
things
so
like
cool.
that. And my daughter like loves singing, and so she's constantly singing and kind of doing gymnastics and things like that. So that's really fun.
Amazing.
So yeah, they're
That's
both
cool.
pretty
So
musical.
coming soon, the family musical. Who knows?
Who knows?
There might be a future adventure in there.
We never know. Exactly. Yeah.
It's so good to hear your story, Kylie. Before we round up, is there anything, a piece of advice that you would like to share with other high achieving parents out there?
I would actually. It's actually like it's more than a little one sentence, but it's something that I feel called to share because it might be useful for some parents out there, kind of on the on the line of pulling, or like knowing how to get your relationship back online when it feels like it's kind of going into the mundane. There was a period of time after having Ollie where like my sex drive totally dipped, and I was just exhausted, and we weren't connecting physically that much, and it was just kind of feeling a bit ho-hum, a bit go through the motions, like you just need to tick it off the list kind of thing. And so for me, I was like, I want a passionate marriage. I want a passionate, joyful, ecstatic, loving marriage. And so this is like my husband is up for it, so the person that's dragging the chain here is me. So I need to put some extra effort into this. And so there was a period where I made a commitment to myself, and I was reading Stealing Fire by Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheel, and it talks about all the different ways that we shift, that we use to shift consciousness, and they kind of collated like anything from drugs to yoga to extreme sports to fitness to coffee to cigarettes to shopping, all of these different ways that, whether helpful or harmful, that we use to shift consciousness. And it kind of gave me this realization that, like, oh, I'm really committed to spiritual practice. So, what if I just think about sex as my spiritual practice? This is my spiritual practice of connection with my husband. And
that's so good.
Yeah. And it was great. So I said to him, hey, honey, I know I haven't been so into it lately. I want to bring in a 10-day sex as spiritual practice challenge. And he was like, I'm in. I'm in.
He was like, can we start now?
Exactly. And so it was
so
just
good.
the commitment that, whether I feel like it or not, I'm going to show up, and we're going to have some intimate time together. And what I realized was that I was constantly making sleep calculations in my head of like, if we get to bed now and maybe we could have sex, but then I'll only get 6 hours of sleep and then I'll be tired in the morning. And so I don't think we have enough time. So I think we should just go to bed. But then we'd end up talking for another 40 minutes anyway, and I still wouldn't get the sleep. And so I realized, if I just go to bed and go, this is my time with my husband and I'm committed to that, and whatever happens, happens, but I'm committed to being intimate. And it was crazy, because once I took that decision, the calculation thing off the table, and when I'm going to just be with my husband no matter what, that really shifted things for me and also for him. And so, because he knew I was committed. And so there wasn't that kind of, hey, are we going to have sex tonight? Kind of like, do you feel like it? I don't want to pressure you, but I'm up for it. But that kind of feeling.
The awkward question.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when you're in a really long-term relationship, you can be with them anytime. So there's a little bit of complacency that can set in. Yeah. So if there's any of that going on, I highly recommend a 10-day sex challenge. To just commit to being with them and seeing what happens, and it was really enlightening for me, and it really shifted it was kind of like the spark that rekindled our spark, basically. And that's, I think, an important thing for anyone after they have kids, because it's so when you're breastfeeding, your libido drops. That's a normal hormonal thing that happens, and not many people talk about it. And then there's just this kind of slow decline in most relationships where you just become housemates.
And it's also, you're tired. You don't really. It's like I so resonate with the calculation. I go, really? Do we have to do this now? I have the opportunity to sleep 4 hours. Can I please? Would you mind? Yes.
I just want to go to sleep.
I totally get this. It's like, I'm going to go to bed now. And I would disconnect so fast because I'd be exhausted. I totally get that. And it's amazing. And unfortunately, I did not do that 10-day sex challenge with my then husband, and that ended up in a divorce for many reasons. But that was one of them.
Yeah.
And it is, unfortunately, one of the things that drive marriages in the ground is not paying attention to that intimacy. And also, what I found now, I've grown up. I've learned.
Yeah.
I've learned my lesson the hard way. And I understand that having that intimate moment with your partner, it doesn't have to be a full-blown
marathon,
extensive session. It doesn't have to be. But just being there and being present and giving yourself the permission as well. Because oftentimes, as moms, they go, oh, well, the kids first. And then the husband goes, whoa, hello.
What about me? Am I a shag on the rock?
Exactly. Oh, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
An amazing topic. We could go on and on
We
for
could
hours
talk a
about
bit
this.
longer for that, but
Maybe
yeah.
we should. Maybe we'll do another one specifically on intimacy,
Yeah.
because I think it's so key to get your endorphins going. It's beneficial on all fronts,
But on a bunch of different
all
fronts.
around.
But it's like it also
Absolutely.
it's good for your kids to see you together in a romantic,
Yes.
intimate relationship. It's like that's what I'm modeling for my kids, and knowing that that's what they see and that's what they see as normal. That's kind of
Yeah.
that was a part of the impetus as well. Is like, hey, I want to I want this to be a passionate relationship. So for me, but also for them to feel safe and secure, and also that they have that modeling. And
Absolutely.
it doesn't always work out, of course, but yeah, it's like having that intention to to show up, to show up
Yeah.
and see what happens.
To show up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kylie, for joining me
Thank
today.
you.
And I would love to continue chatting with you, but we're going to leave it at this for today. I'll bring you back next time.
That would be great.
In the future. And well, thank you once again for tuning in. And well, until soon.
Until soon. Thank you.
I'm already looking forward to our next session. What was your major takeaway from this one? I'd love to hear from you. Come and share your insights with me on social media at Coach Severine Nassens, and visit high-achievingparents.com for more information on how you too can find clarity and obtain the tools to find fulfillment in both your professional and family life. Talk to you soon.